Now, it's important to note that the more starting points you choose, the better. But because we don't have time to explain all of them, and I think most people watching work for a brand that will recognize the outside voice route, so they have some sort of marketing activities or advertising activities, I will explain that route in more detail. Let's start with the brand strength. Brand strength is a combination between how well known your brand is and to what degree people think that you can really make a difference. Simple rule of thumb here is the bigger the brand, the bigger the brand strength. When it comes to recycling, it's important that at least half your target audience feels that you have big brand strength. So at least half the people should feel that, should recognize your brand and should also feel that your brand can make a difference. If that's not the case, I recommend you take another starting route, or you find a partner with a bigger brand strength to team up with.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Therese, I mean, Coca-Cola is obviously a huge global brand. On this particular point, have you ever teamed up with others to try and encourage people to recycle?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also very strong. So why don't I talk you through these three? So first of all, we teamed up with Diesel last year, where we connected into using the bottle material that we have, because essentially we wanted to get one message across. Don't throw that plastic Coca-Cola bottle away as if it's trash, because it's really valuable and it can come back in another life. Now, preferably in a new bottle, but you can also do other cool stuff with it, like creating beautiful t-shirts, jeans, etc. out of it. So it's really important to help land that message that the material has value. Another way of collaborating is by working with our customers. So the example on the right is a return vending machine that we have in the Merlin Park in GB. So here people can come into the park, and then once they've enjoyed their drink, they put in their bottle and they get back a value. So that's another way of collaborating and really finding a good way of doing this together. And then the last one, I think, is also interesting, where Costa Coffee, also one of our brands, collaborated with Heathrow Airport. Obviously, this was before the pandemic, where they wanted to see how they could enhance collection and recycling of their coffee cups on the go. And as you may know, we've all been there once. I mean, you take that cup and then you wander in the airport onto your gate. So how do you collect all these cups, and how do you make that a logistic good example? Well, actually, the team there did a really good job, and they had all kinds of elements that were successful in this, or that made this campaign very successful. In the end, they managed to see a 130% uplift in collection and recycling of those cups and lids. So that's actually really exciting, and that was really established because there was a very strong collaboration between the airport and Costa Coffee in this case to make that recycling cups on the go thing happen.
Okay, thanks, Therese. And this is interesting. This is showing us the power of brands to influence behavior. Matt, so that's brand strength. Can you tell us what's next in terms of this outside voice? What comes after brand strength?
Of course. The next button after brand strength is brand responsibility. Brand responsibility is the degree to which consumers hold your brand responsible for any major sustainable issue, like the islands of plastic floating around in the ocean. Our research shows that the bigger the brand strength automatically means the more responsible people hold your company for these issues. Whether or not this is a problem when you want to encourage people to recycle, however, depends on your corporate social sustainability match, your CSR match, which is also our next button. The CSR match is the match between what people think your core business is and what people perceive as sustainable. For example, airlines fly people where they want to go. Whether or not airlines have a good or bad CSR match depends on people's perception of sustainability. Train companies also get people where they want to go, and most people see trains as a more sustainable means of travel. So most train companies will probably have a better CSR match than airlines. Now, CSR match on its own is not that important. However, when we take brand strength and brand responsibility into account, it becomes hugely important. If you have good brand strength and thus people hold you responsible, but you don't have such a good or even a bad CSR match, and you do advertise and communicate about recycling, people might become skeptical. People might feel reactance. People will get upset. This is why I think when big brands try to talk about recycling or any sustainability issue, they always get lots of heat for it. Now, fortunately, no matter your CSR match, good or bad, there's always one thing you can do to increase recycling behavior using your brand power. That is taking the responsibility as a brand and showing that dedication. This means you have to ask yourself, what kind of responsibility does the consumer demand me to take? And will I be able to see it through? And will I be able to show dedication? This could mean quite some fundamental game changes, some big rethinks of your business, of your brand. For example, the airlines, what we talked about earlier, it can mean that they have to start investing in a more sustainable way of flying, or even think of a completely alternative way of transport altogether. Another easy example is banks and pension funds, which have to think about stop investing in fossil fuels and start investing only in sustainable companies. Now, if you can take such responsibility, you also have to communicate about it. You have to show your dedication. And it is okay to show your dedication if that dedication is real.
And Mats, if I can just ask you here, I mean, that's an important point, is it? Does it look like dedication, and does it look real? Because people won't be fooled by PR or spin. So I'm assuming if brands do this, they've got to be in it for the long term, right?
Very true. On the short term, no matter how much responsibility you take, there will always be some skeptical people. There will always be some form of reactance. The question is, will you be able to see it through? Will you commit to it to the long term? Because if you do, then what happens is you can create a sense of a common person, and you can create a new norm. First off, the norm. This is where lots of companies, big companies, start talking about recycling. People who see that will feel, hey, this recycling thing seems to become normal. Everybody's talking about it. Maybe I should do it too. On the other hand, people will get the feeling that we, as a society, have a new sense of a common purpose of making this recycling thing really happen. Now, the sense of a common purpose is actually just a result of the previous button being hit in the right manner. But you can emphasize it in your advertising, especially if you show that your brand's working together with other big brands to increase recycling behavior.
But Mats, I get that brands showing they have a common purpose will influence public opinion and how people feel, but how does it actually change behavior in terms of getting people to recycle? What actually happens?
That's a good question. That's also the next buttons on our map. When people have the feeling that there is a common purpose and they see advertising about it, two things happen. One, more overall, people will get the feeling that we as a society can achieve this goal. We can really make this recycling, this sustainability thing happen. Also, if you do it in the right way, you can give people the feeling that they are able to make an impact. They themselves individually can contribute to a solution. It's important to note that both these feelings can be enhanced by making results more visible. For example, a local office building could show how much waste is being recycled there. On the other hand, way bigger, a company could show how much of their products are being made of recycled plastics.